Good morning. Welcome to Leadership Live. This is the fifth installment in our 5 practices of exemplary leaders. Ultimately, this is one of my favorite because it really is bringing it all together. It's recognizing everything that we've done up to this point, and it's called Encourage the Heart. And of course, for those of you that do know me, you know that I love people and I like to reward people and I like to bring out the best in people. So that's kind of what this is about. So I'm at my home here in this one. So I hope you'll enjoy it as much as I do. So let's talk a little bit about the 5th practice and the commitments that you will make in order to make this happen. So think about it this way. We're encouraging the heart. One of the first commitments that we're going to make is going to recognize individual contributions to the success of every project. So once again, the key point here is individual, and we're going to talk more about that here in just a second. The second piece of this is to celebrate team accomplishments regularly. So we're going to focus on individuals, and we're going to do it regularly. Because just like everything else we've talked about to this point is not a one-size-fits-all. Not everybody's going to want the same things the same way. So that's where it comes back to what we've talked about throughout the course of this piece is you need to understand your people. What is important to them? How do they want to be recognized? So let's talk a little bit about this theme called Encourage the Heart. And once again, we are still in Kouzes and Posner's Leadership Challenge. So we want to see genuine acts of caring. They uplift the spirit, they draw people forward, and they let them know that you appreciate what they're doing. The number one thing that people want from their leaders is appreciation. It isn't money. We think it's money, but it's actually appreciation. In a recent survey, and I guess it wasn't really too recent, but it is consistently done over and over again with the same results. The number one thing that people say they want from their leaders is appreciation. Money actually ranks number 9 because no matter how much money we make, it's never enough. So if we focus on the right things at the right time and doing them the right way, we're going to get a lot more results from our people. So let's look at some of these a little bit closer and let's talk about how we can implement them in our current environment. And remember, it is all up to you. I've worked for a lot of organizations that didn't have a reward system. And so I had to create it myself. Very early on in my career, I think I told you that I worked in retail and I took stores that were failing and I flipped them. Well, interestingly enough, my first thing is I told people, my way or the highway, and they all left. So when I hired new people on, I figured out I had to do business just differently because that didn't work. So what I did is that I encouraged them through a board in the back. I didn't have money or funding to offer them much in the way of rewards. So I created one. And basically the reward was you got recognized on a board. And you also got recognized for helping other people because it's all about paying it forward. And it's funny because even though if we met our goals at the end of the month, then I would buy pizza. And trust me, it was out of my own pocket. So sometimes when you create these reward systems, it's going to have to come from you because there isn't any way around it. So let's look at one of the key pieces here that goes with recognized contributions. Be creative about the rewards. Talk to your team. Ask them what they want. Throughout the course of my career and working with teams, I figured out what was important to them. Not what I thought was important or what they wanted, but what was important to them. One of my favorite places to go to is vaudeville because it gives you all kinds of reward things. And I really got started in what's called the essential piece because everyone is essential piece to the puzzle for us to be successful. So I like some of the rewards that they can give. And sometimes it included mugs. Sometimes it included a little key ring. Sometimes it was just sticky notes and pens. But I found ways that I could still reward and incentivize them and let them know how much I appreciated their hard work. And they appreciated those things. Oftentimes, even today, they didn't even use the sticky notes that I gave them because they wanted to keep them. It was a form of recognition. So, make recognition public. Some people don't like to have the big hoopla. One of the organizations I worked for is that every time you were successful at something, every time you hit a goal or every time you were recognized, they went around and they celebrated. They brought balloons, everybody clapped, they paraded around. And for some people that's embarrassing. For some people, they don't want to be that center of attention. So make sure that you are evaluating that it is something that people are going to appreciate. If they're embarrassed and they feel self-conscious, that certainly isn't a reward. And we don't want to penalize them for being successful. We want them to enjoy what we're doing for them. So we want to make sure that it's important to them. Also, provide feedback. Feedback can be a great source of recognition because people want to know that they're doing well. I had a boss that always said to me, well, if you don't hear from me, you must be doing fine. That isn't a reward or a recognition. I want to know that I'm doing a good job. Recently, in a position I had two of the people that have been there the longest say, you know what, you are so far exceptional to the previous person we had here. You are leaps and bounds ahead of where they were after 2 years. That's rewards and recognition. It made me feel good, and I appreciated the fact that they recognized how hard I was working. Now, do I want to compare myself against other people? That isn't for me. I'm not competitive in nature with other people. I'm competitive with myself. So if I do a game or an activity, I don't want people pitted against each other because I don't want the team to fracture. What I want the team to do is I want them to pull together. So I create sort of a game or an event that's going to bring us together because we have to rely on each other to be successful. That helps to build the team. So there's a couple of ways around that. We're going to talk about team building in a later segment. So I'll share more about that when that time comes. Foster positive expectations. Show people they can win. People want to be winners. They don't want to go home going, well, I wasn't successful at that today, because it just tends to bring us down. And you want to catch people doing something right. Get yourself out there. Sitting behind your desk is not going to get you to see what your people are doing. Get out in among them. Become a friend. We all know that as leaders and managers and supervisors that we have to watch that fine line of friendship. But if I don't know my team and I don't know what's important to them, I'm never going to be able to reward or incentivize them because I'm not going to know what's important to them. So there's a line you draw, but you still need to get out there. You still need to be friendly to them. You still need to know who they are and what inspires them and what motivates them. Because when I asked people what motivated them, that's how I figured out that it was appreciation and not money. Because money is never enough, no matter how hard we try. When we come to recognition, and it's really how leaders visibly and behaviorally link rewards with performance. We don't want to go up to them and say, hey, you're doing a great job. That means nothing to them. What am I being great at? That's just sort of a blanket statement. And don't be afraid to say thank you, because I think that's important as well. We forget please and thank you, and they're the most valuable words in our language. Make sure people know, thank you so much for going out of your way to do that. You know, sometimes when people are consistently late, when I was working with a team member, I had to really work hard to find something positive that I could share with them. But when they were on time or when they were a little bit early, I was all over that. It's like, thank you so much for coming in early today. There is so much for us to do. And now that you're here, I know we can get more things accomplished. Behavior rewarded is behavior repeated. If you keep banging their head over something that they do wrong, they're going to just stop trying. So we need to make sure that we're focused on them being successful, because positive expectations will yield positive results. And that's what we want to accomplish with this, is that we want to reward that behavior so that we continue to get those responses. But it has to be genuine. It has to come from the heart. You know, Coach Krzyzewski wrote a book called Leading with the Heart. And that's what we have to do. We really have to lead with our hearts, because people are an interesting group and we're not all the same. We come in different shapes and sizes, different requirements, different things that are important to us. So we need to really like people. I met a human resource director once that hated people, and I thought, that's a little confusing. Human resources, people. And I said, you know, human resources is all about people. She said, yeah, but I don't like people. Great. We've got a long road here. So when I delved a little deeper into this, I said, well, you know, you have to interact with people. I don't like people. I get that. Don't say that again, because it's breaking my heart. And what I figured out is that what she didn't like about her job was the day-to-day challenges that we face because we care about people. And so put her in charge of a project and a team that's working on a project, she excelled. So it is part about finding out where we fit as well, and how we can contribute to that success within that realm of our environment. So as we continue to look forward, find those people that are doing things right. Make a big deal about it. Focus in on that. When somebody's setting the standard that you want, recognize that. Share those things in those meetings. Let people know what you appreciate and how it benefits the team. That's a sense of reward all in itself. You know, sometimes we would put together an outing, and I think it's important to celebrate. As soon as you complete a project, stop. You know, we're so caught up in, got that project done, now I need to start the next one. You never really take a break so that we can move into the celebration mode and give people a chance to breathe, clear their mind, and feel good about what they accomplished, because we're so busy jumping into the next project that we forget to take time to go, yes, I did a great job. Yes, we completed this project. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in this last commitment. So let's look at that last commitment. And that last commitment, once again, is celebrate the values and the victories by creating a spirit of community. Schedule those celebrations. Don't be stingy with them. Even if it's just a few minutes, you know you're completing a project that day, maybe you bring in donuts. And maybe you stop first thing in the morning, you say, you know what, we're going to complete this project today. Let's take a breather. Let's say, okay, this is great. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And then we can begin to go forward, and then we can rejuvenate into those last bits. You don't always have to wait till the very end when you close the doors on it, because chances are you're probably working right up till 5 o'clock and you're not going to be able to stop because people are going to want to go home. They're tired, they're exhausted, they've been working hard. But let's make sure to reward them throughout the process. Bring in a lunch. Sometimes maybe it's even just walking outside, sitting down and taking a breather and enjoying the beautiful weather. I've done that with my team several times. It's, you know what, we've accomplished great things here. We've completed this task and project. We've hit our goal. Let's everyone stop. Let's go outside. Let's sit down. I brought some snacks. Let's have a soda. Let's have some snacks, and let's just talk. And let's just share. And sometimes you can use that point as a debrief, but I would try never to bring work into that. That is truly a moment of celebration. You want to install a bragging board. I've done this several places where we can say, thank you to so-and-so. You see them, like if you go to Home Depot, there's a whole wall that says, this is so-and-so, they did something right. Have a bragging wall. Let people know that they've been successful. People like to see their name up in lights, so to speak, because then we know that we're being recognized for all the hard work. Think about it this way. How much time do you spend at work? Oftentimes, I spent more time at work than I did with the people who loved me. And when I invest that much time, that means I'm sacrificing something somewhere else. So you want to let people know that the work that they're doing is valued and that you value them. Don't be stingy with those thank yous. Get out there and say thank you. Take time to reconcile with them. If you know they've been working really hard on a project and they haven't been spending much time at home because they've been spending all their time with you at the office, send them home early. Don't penalize them by not paying them for it. Say, you know what, you've been working a lot of hours, you've been putting some time in. Why don't you go take some time with your family? Why don't you see if your kids want to get together and go out to somewhere and do something? I always like to give away little gift cards. They may only have been $5, but at least I can give them a gift card for $5 to go get a cup of coffee. Maybe to go get a pizza, put it toward a pizza. Something that they could do, that they could take home and do with their family. Because without their family supporting them, they wouldn't be able to do what you're asking them to do. So think about that as well. There's more than one person involved in this process. Another thing to keep in mind is create a commemorative award honoring exemplary actions. You know, the employee of the month, and they get to park closer to the building. That's used often, but think about being creative when you do these commemorative awards. It doesn't have to be something that sits on their desk. Sometimes it can be just something you've printed out that they can paste on their wall. I've seen that in a lot of companies that I've worked in or that I have worked with, where their whole wall at their cubicle is filled with congratulatory things that have been printed out. Congratulations for hitting your goal. Congratulations for exceeding your goal by X amount. This is to recognize you for exemplary work this past week, whatever it is. People like stuff they can set on their desks too. One of the things that I got from vaudeville was cute little tiny penguins. One group gave me, because when I was working in the prison environment, I would go around to my team every morning, and I considered all the officers my team. I would go around and I would say, so how was your weekend? You know, your son had that soccer game. How did that go? And I would talk to them. And so I did that for exactly a month. And I wanted to see how it changed the behavior or the culture of the environment. So after I stopped doing it, on the 31st day, I got back to my office and there was a huge thank you card that they had all signed. And this cute little duck that you squeezed it and its tongue rolled out and went, it's like, we miss you. Thank you so much for coming down and caring about us. We miss you when you're coming back. And that was just something that was commemorative of my time down there. And I realized how important and invaluable it was to that team. So it was something that I instituted and continued. I couldn't do it every day because obviously we have work that we need to do, but I would make time throughout the week that I would go down and I would visit them. And I would spend time with them. And sometimes I even put on a uniform and I would work alongside of them when I knew that my workload permitted it. Because if I'm not down in amongst them, there's no way I can recognize them. And I want to make sure that I recognize people for the successes that they have and the things that they do well, because we want them to know how much we value them. Keep in mind, be a cheerleader. I am your biggest advocate. I'm your biggest cheerleader. Do it in your way. Make it natural. Make it real. Make it authentic. Because remember, being genuine is really where we sit with this. If we're not genuine, people are going to go, yeah, she's doing one of those things again. And we don't want it to be a thing. We want it to be something that's important and something that's valued. So make sure that you're figuring out what you can do and be a cheerleader. But whatever you do, have fun. Make sure people enjoy it. Make sure it's something more fun. And make sure there's no penalty involved in doing this. Because oftentimes when you take time, then they get behind on something else. Make sure that when you do this, that you wipe away everything else, so that they really can enjoy themselves. They really can have fun. I would often take to my team and say, okay, we've had a great month. This is, what we've accomplished. How do you want to celebrate? You tell me. And I would let everyone send me something. It was anonymous. They put it in a bucket. You tell me what you want. And oftentimes it's funny because they kind of all get together and they would say, okay, let's think about this. And then they would come to me and they would say, this is what we want to do. And I'd say, great, because, if they're coming up with it, then I know it's important to them. And we would make it happen. In one of the organizations I worked for, I had this wonderful, incredible employee who loved to plan these kind of events. And so I said to her, okay, here's the budget we have, or here's no budget, and come up with something that you think everyone's going to like. And she loved to plan these things. And so we always had something great. One time it was a potluck, and the food was so phenomenal. And I loved it. And yet everyone had a great time. And they came down, we sat around, we talked, we laughed. We just really enjoyed each other's company. And that was a good way to celebrate because it energized them. They were ready to start again and tackle the next project that we had to do. Because unfortunately, we know that the projects never end and there's always work to be done. And finally, set the example. It has to start with you. Because if you don't lay the foundation for this, they're not going to believe that it's genuine or it's authentic. Go schedule one now. Get one on the books. Let them know this is what you want to do and why you want to do it. Make sure you know and they know it's about them. It's not about you doing the right thing because they're going to know you're doing the right thing. Don't make a big hubbub about what all you do because remember, leaders lead from the back. They really let their people shine. People know, John Maxwell said in his book, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I think that is the key component I'm trying to get across in this, is that people have to know you care. Because if they don't think you care, they're not going to give you their very best. In fact, they're probably spending their time looking for someplace else to be. Because people will do and work for people that they care. People don't leave organizations, they leave their managers. And most of the time it's because managers don't care or they think they don't care. And oftentimes I know how hard it is. You're getting hammered from all sides about the things that aren't getting done or the things that you're doing wrong because your boss, who is supposed to be your leader, hasn't figured out these things to make you successful. But being a strong leader in your own right, you can learn what is valuable for those that are trickling down. And one thing I've always learned in how I set up my leadership style is that I learned what wasn't right. I had been subjected to leaders who were not great. They were more dictators. They were more authoritarians. They were never concerned with the people. They were only concerned about how they looked. When I stopped thinking about how I looked and I thought about how my team looked and I was focused on their success, it worked out so much better. One team member that I had really hadn't been very successful on the team, but it was mainly because the person before me had no clue who they are or where their strengths lied or what was important to them. When I gave them the opportunity to do what they did best, they were nationally recognized for something they contributed that was adopted in all of our companies throughout the US and internationally. That is huge recognition. Their name was on it. They were recognized by the CEO of the entire company, as well as made a big deal in our organization. That's when you give the people the opportunity to shine. When I say encourage with the heart, I truly mean you have to have kind, caring, and compassion for the people who report directly to you and those around them. You know, my leadership just doesn't stop with my team. I try to lead everywhere I go. I try to help people to see the best way. You know, I think one of the things that has happened in society with all of the changes that we've had is that we've forgotten to show just a little bit of kindness. If we can just take a moment to really let people know we care, be genuinely kind and compassionate to their needs, to their ideas, to their thoughts, and to their contributions, we can help them to far exceed their own expectations. And when they exceed their own expectations, they'll definitely exceed ours. So think about that this week. I want you to do a couple of things as you go out. I want you to take a look at your team. Figure out if you really know them, what's important to them, and what would be considered some form of appreciation or recognition that would be valuable to them. And then get something on the books. Take some time to let them know how much you care, because they're going to far exceed your expectations if you do. So that's the end of my time today. Next week, what we're going to do as we close out Kouzes and Posner's Leadership Challenge is that we're going to create an action plan to putting all 5 of these practices into play. We're going to look back at what we've talked about over the last 5 weeks, and we're actually going to learn how to apply that and think of some things that we can do. So what I'd like you to do is you join in next week. Come prepared. Come prepared to take what you've learned and then begin the process of applying it. Because I'm going to give you an application process that's going to help you to look at the things that you can do right now that are going to give you the biggest payoff to getting where you want to be. So I hope you've enjoyed this series. We're going to recap it next week, and then we're going to start on the next one. And I'm not going to tell you what that is until next week. But go out and be a great leader and let people know that you care. Appreciate everyone and everything that they do. You guys have a great day, and thanks for joining me on Leadership Live. Encourage the Heart. Bye.